Amid the chaos of the battlefield, soldiers needed a reliable and hard-wearing timepiece that could withstand the rigors of combat, keep them on schedule, and perhaps even serve to save their life. Enter the field watch. Since the early 19th century, the field watch has evolved from utility-first timekeeping battlefield instruments to iconic modern designs backed up by the latest in watchmaking technology. Although it was quite clear back then, what exactly constitutes a field watch now? The answer was once straightforward based on their specific purpose, but is it now just a matter of style, or are there specific features that make a field watch a field watch? Let's clear it up. First, the modern field watch will still be heralded for its durability. They may build in features like a scratch-resistant crystal or mineral glass, a virtually impervious case able to withstand temperature changes, humidity, and impact, and a sturdy NATO strap or corrosion-resistant bracelet that can withstand the elements. Second, field watches have highly legible dials, most closely resembling a pilot's watch with clear markers and high contrast for easy identification even at a quick glance. And third, the price. Often one of the least costly designs, a field watch shouldn't run you more than a few $100s, even from true heritage brands. However, we've added in a few premium picks you'll want to check out toward the end of the guide if your budget allows. So let's dive right in to unravel the field watch legacy by showcasing 7 of our favorite field watches and what sets them apart from the rest. We'll start off our field watch guide with a no-nonsense quartz-powered pick from Timex with the Expedition Northfield Post Solar, a great choice from a brand that centered their low-cost offerings around the field watch wireframe. While there are other field watches in Timex's lineup under $100 like the very popular Expedition Scout or the more sophisticated Weekender, two undeniably great values for the price, the Expedition Northfield Post Solar is a fairly recent Timex release that builds in a few more premium features. Let's take a closer look. This field watch essentially sees the classic Expedition Scout's case and raises it with a larger 41mm stainless steel case and a thicker 12mm case height. Like the Scout, the Northfield Post Solar comes with various PVD-coated cases, all of which are extremely pleasing to the eye. Keeping their military heritage in mind, this variant uses an even all-matte gunmetal finish across the entire case, which is typical of the field watch style, which we'll see in more detail as we go along. The case is classically machined, with a set of gently curved lugs and a sloping bezel and embossed screw-down crown nestled within a set of crown guards that protects against water up to 100 meters. On the back, Timex provides an attractive bit of branding hidden beneath the slip-through NATO strap. If you had to pick only one metric to classify a field watch, it would have to be legibility. It certainly sounds obvious, and that goes for all watches, no? But baking in the ability to spot the time and do it quickly with only 41mm or less is no small feat. Dials can get busy quick, which is partially why the field watch style has remained so popular because of its timeless and simple approach. The Northfield Post Solar only builds in the essentials under the Sapphire, a reserved chapter ring with triangular hour markers, 2 concentric rings of 24-hour Arabic numerals, a simple date window at 3 o'clock, and a set of hands inlaid with loom, but does so on 2 levels to add some depth to an otherwise simple presentation. The dial also comes in various colors that match the colorway of the NATO. A great field watch certainly isn't just for show. As the dial text above the 6 suggests, Timex builds in a solar-powered analog quartz movement with a stunning 4-month power reserve. That certainly would have come in handy on the battlefields of yesteryear, and will certainly supply more than enough timekeeping for any weekend adventure. This is a loose metric, but more often than not, a great way to tell a field watch from, say, a pilot's watch or any other subcategory is by taking a look at the strap that ships default with the watch. A NATO strap is a dead giveaway, and the Northfield Post Solar builds in a very durable slip-through unit with a set of classic case-matching buckle hardware. Our second field watch pick has an origin in 1920s Japan, and Citizen has now built a watchmaking operation that rivals Western Swiss-based powerhouses. Although they're most well known for their divers and pilots' watches, the Garrison Eco Drive checks all the field watch boxes with a budget-friendly price tag. The classic 37mm stainless steel case is probably the case that comes to mind when someone thinks of a wristwatch. It's standard and rugged, handsome and simple, uses brushed and high polish the correct ways, and a prominent knurled push-pull crown at the 3. And although field watches aren't dedicated divers, most have at least 100 meters of water resistance, as is the case with the Garrison. It's almost ironic that field watches are often small. You'd naturally think legibility necessitates a large case size, or at least aids with visibility. But that's not the case, and the Garrison Eco Drive proves you don't need an extremely large case to make a highly legible watch. The Garrison's bright white markers and 12-hour Arabic numerals are set against a deep velvety black dial, which provides an insane amount of contrast, almost as good as what you'd see from German watchmaker Zinn. You'll find that field and pilot's watches share much of the same ethos, and both have their origin in times of great conflict, but there's a few things to look for to tell them apart. While the Garrison field watch's dial is highly visible thanks to the high contrast black and white scheme, it doesn't sport any secondary timing features that pilots often use to keep track of the time or fuel levels in the air. Now, as for the movement, here's where the Garrison Field Watch shines, courtesy of Citizen's proprietary EcoDrive E101 caliber that can power the watch's movement with any available light and isn't restricted to just solar. How does it work? Without getting extremely technical, both natural and artificial light can pass through the dial, becoming converted into energy and then stored into a cell for future use, which means it never needs a battery, and can provide 6 months of use in total darkness. Pseudo-quartz or quartz-adjacent may be an interesting way to describe this movement, plus it's eco-friendly, as its cell never needs to be replaced or swapped like a battery, that may get you 5 to 10 years of life at best. On a sunny day, you can achieve max reserve with only 11 hours of exposure. On a cloudy day, it'll take about 40 hours, and with only fluorescent light, expect your charge time to take up to 130 hours, to achieve a full 6 months worth of power. However, you'll no doubt experience a combination of environments, so you can expect your maximum charge to vary pretty widely. As we said, a great field watch usually builds in a great NATO strap. The Garrison in this case doesn't use the traditional slip-through variant, but it does build in a very close stitched fabric strap with a faux leather backing and beefy stainless steel buckle hardware to match the main case. In our introduction, we made clear that field watches were born in wartime and needed to be incredibly tough to stand up to anything and everything in battle. The Marathon General Purpose Quartz, or GPQ for short, is a true field watch first used by the Allied forces in World War II and is to this day built to strict US military standards. Part of the GPQ's allure is its balance of form and durability, which remains a cornerstone of Marathon's operations stemming back to 1939, just as the Second World War broke out. Having the first 3 years of operation coincide with one of the biggest wars in history naturally provided Marathon with the ultimate opportunity to field test their references for durability. Constructed from a 34mm high-impact resistant composite fiber shell case, it's extremely lightweight compared to its stainless steel contemporaries, completely submersible up to 100 meters, and uses straight-edge machining for a visibly tough profile. Under a heavily scratch-resistant sapphire crystal, the dial packs in some neat tricks. The standard high-contrast black and white color scheme checks the box of the typical field watch MO, but adds in tritium gas tubes on the chapter ring just past each Arabic numeral, as well as the hour and minute hand. Let's back up to high school chemistry for just a moment. Tritium, or H3, as the dial indicates that the 9 o'clock is a hydrogen isotope, as the 3 o'clock imprint also indicates. The real party trick is the element's radioluminescent properties. As the isotope begins to decay, the electrons react with a phosphor lining the inside of the tubes, so it produces a constant, low source of illumination that doesn't need exposure to light in order to activate, like traditional lume or power from a battery like Timex's Indiglo, for example. Speaking of batteries, you won't have to worry about accuracy either, since the Marathon GPQ is powered via the ETA F06 caliber. This high-torque quartz caliber will hold up to virtually any test. Shocks, drops, temperature changes, humidity changes, magnetism, the list goes on, and even builds in a handy end-of-life indicator. Like we said, most every top-notch field watch builds in a great NATO strap, and the Marathon GPQs does not disappoint, with a thick NATO and a set of hard-wearing stainless steel buckle and strap loop accents. The field watch might just be the sedan of the watch world. They're not costly to manufacture, they've been around forever, and they're often the cornerstone of an automotive brand's catalog. So naturally, the field watch is a model that attracts micro-brand startups since they're not complicated to build and have very simplistic forms. However, what Los Angeles micro-brand Nodus has done with the Sector Field is elevated the field watch form and offered it at an affordable price, even less than the Khaki Field. Let's take a closer look at the no-date version of the Sector Field Redwood so you can see for yourself. There's a few really neat tricks Nodus has built into the 38mm case that really sets it apart. First, the fixed end-link sandwich between the lugs. Just take a look at the machining. The drilled lugs are lengthy and gently slope down to the inner sides and then sharply transition to a strip of high polish that runs along the side of the case, leading into the bezel. And speaking of the bezel, it's a flat step unit with a full mirror polish with thin chamfered edges, and it's only a few millimeters thin, so it really blends in with the sapphire and provides a viewing experience that's incredibly singular. We also really love the oversized screw-down crown. When you look at the crown straight down the side of the case, it doesn't sit in the middle of the case as it's aligned with the top of the screw-down case back, and this gives it a lot of character. At 12.5mm thick, it's definitely on the beefier side of what you'd expect of a field watch. When the thickness and the oversized screw-down crown combine, it makes the 38mm case with a 47mm lug-to-lug feel closer to a 39mm on the wrist. Nodus in Latin, or node in English, is defined as the intersection of pathways, and the sector uses an appropriate crosshair motif to emphasize the moniker, that loosely divides the dial into 4 quadrants and intersects with the hands. It also speaks to the accuracy of the movement tucked inside. The dial itself is absolutely packed with depth. If you examine it closely, there are 3 separate levels, one for the outer minute track or chapter ring, one for the ring that houses the 12-hour Arabic numerals, and the innermost for the much smaller 24-hour Arabic numerals on the dial text. This central disc also uses tiny smiling punch-outs between the numerals that pack in even more interest, and sits above a circular gradient for contrast. If this wasn't enough, the flat dome sapphire has a chamfer that catches the tip of the seconds hand and distorts the image enough to project it a second time, as well as any numerals you catch a glance at off angle. Check it out. Also, the sector field uses a beautiful bright blue lume inset within the hands and the framed 12-hour Arabic numerals. The sector field runs off the Seiko caliber NH38, which is essentially the very popular NH35 without the date complication. The self-winding Seiko NH35 and 38 in particular are very popular choices among microbrands. They're widely available, unbranded, easily serviceable, and pretty damn tough, so they make complete sense sub $500. In terms of accuracy, the movement has been regulated by Nodus themselves, so you can expect anywhere between plus to minus 10 seconds of deviation per day. But after wearing it on the wrist for some time, we think that number is probably a bit lower. Fans of Zin's H-Link bracelets will love the unit that ships standard with the sector field Redwood. We're happy to see Nodus opted for something a little less conventional, and it adds in even more personality on top of the dial's design. It also uses screw posts for its links, a really easy to use double button push clasp, and 3 micro adjustment slots to fine-tune the fit. Although wristwatches were around for nearly a century before in various forms and served soldiers in the First World War, the field watches we know and love today only became standard issue for GIs during World War II. American watchmakers Belova, Elgin, and Waltham manufactured this standard issue timepiece, and it was once named the A11. Although field watches only became standard issue during World War II, Hamilton had been making wristwatches for soldiers during World War I, and the design had a major impact on the A11's wireframe. As such, the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical is the field watch. It's the de facto just get this option if you're looking for expert consensus, technical specifications, heritage, and true to form design. You can't get any more field watch than this Khaki Field. The Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical features a durable stainless steel case that boasts 50 meters of water resistance, a 58-gram weight, a 9.5mm thickness, and a 20mm lug width that affords an enormous variety of bands and bracelets from both Hamilton and a slew of aftermarket brands. With that being said, the field watch comes outfitted with the premium NATO strap by default. Although the case is small on paper at 38mm, the lengthy 47mm lug-to-lug dimension feels like the watch wears closer to a 40mm when viewed on the wrist from above, even for our wrists clocking in just a touch under 8 inches for context. It's one of the very few polarizing aspects, mostly by wearers with shorter wrist dimensions. A key characteristic of this field watch is a slim profile, with its thickness of just 9.5mm, directly correlating to the space-saving mechanical construction of the movement, but more on that a bit later. As an added bonus, although a deviation from the original heritage styling, the current Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical 38mm offers a variety of different case finishing options like a PVD black, matte bronze, and Hamilton's unique earth-colored PVD coating, each of which is complemented via a riveted H-branded push-pull crown at the 3 o'clock. The plain black dial serves as a high-contrast background for the white applied numeral set straight onto the dial itself. Not only does this provide great visibility via the value contrast, but without the use of highly raised numerals for each hour marker, the hour and minute hands can actually sit lower in the case under the sapphire crystal, another area that's allowed for the watch's overall thin profile. Now for us, the only thing that's slightly underwhelming is the lume, especially for a military-inspired utility-first watch. Hamilton uses the highest quality superluminova, but as you can see, it doesn't use much of it. Only the inset hour and minute hands as well as each triangular hour marker along the minute track glow a neon green, and it doesn't hold its luminosity for very long, fading quicker than would be ideal for a toolish field watch. Although the Arabic numerals are set in bright white and certainly pop against the dial background, they're not loomed, which significantly decreases the overall utility in low-light situations. Diving right into one of the key selling points of this watch is the H50 mechanical movement, an exclusive in-house 17-jewel fully analog caliber designed by Hamilton, based on the ETA 2801-2 for full self-winding capability. Boasting a whopping 80-hour power reserve, enough to sustain about 3 full days per wind, this outwardly reserved 38mm packs an impressive internal punch. Like the different case options, the Khaki Field Mechanical also offers several colors of 20mm NATO straps with leather strap loops and pin buckles. And if you're not a fan of the textile look, you can pick up one of a dozen full-grain leather options, or opt for something as non-conventional as a rubber strap, since the 20mm lug width makes finding third-party options a breeze. We like the standard OD green NATO for its reminiscence, making it feel distinctly true to Hamilton's ethos. While lightweight and breathable, the strap feels premium with a nice thickness that's sure to form fit to the wrist comfortably over time with regular use. What's more, the leather outline hole punches will surely keep the strap in good condition over time without any rips or tears. Moving on, one of the best attributes of a field watch is the affordable price point, but for our last few picks, we're going to showcase references that revamp the traditional field watch form and carry a higher price tag. The Seiko Prospex LAN reference SPB 117 is a prime example. The SPB-117 is the union of two premium Seiko families, the much-loved Alpinist family, based on the original 1959 Mountaineers watch, and Seiko's first real foray into the sports watch world with the Prospex line, Seiko's modern sports watch catalog. Just looking at the case, the SPB-117 won't be as hyper-recognizable as, say, the Hamilton Khaki Field as a field watch. It adds in a few extra details that reflect the elevated price point. First, you'll immediately notice a more premium finish that oscillates between fine brushing and high mirror polish, unlike the traditional field watch form that 9 times out of 10 opts for a full matte or bead blasted finish. This is one of Seiko's premium lines, and they want you to know it. Second, the 39.5mm case uses an inner rotating compass ring, with an adjustment crown positioned at the 4 o'clock, a tool that may certainly come in handy for land-based explorers. Along with 20 bar or 200 meters of water resistance, the SPB-117 is as hard-wearing as it is attractive. You also won't see many field watches built in an exhibition window. Although the Alpinist land uses a scratch-resistant mineral crystal, it does slightly downgrade its long-term durability compared to the standard field watch variant, the stainless steel screw-down case back. The dial of the Alpinist land SPB-117 is really beautiful and adds more depth than you would expect from a field watch, from the high polished on the inverted triangular indices to the distinctly retro hour and minute hands inset with plenty of Lumibright. Back to the chapter ring compass. Check it out in action. You even have a giant cyclops above the date window at the 3 o'clock, something very Rolex of Seiko, and it certainly lends it a hybrid sports field watch persona. Seiko's automatic 6R35 builds in a very solid movement for the price. The 6R35 is an upgrade to the 6R15 that served as the engine for previous Alpinist releases and has been used in the line since about 2019. It mainly sees the power reserve upgraded to 70 hours, which for a field watch is no small detail to miss, since these are still, at the end of the day, tool watches like a diver or a pilot's watch. Sure, the premium case goes a long way to differentiate it from its lower-cost field watch contemporaries, but so does a stainless steel bracelet. Apart from the fact that you don't typically find a field watch with a stainless steel bracelet, just because they're heavy, the Alpinist Land's 20mm unit is certainly well made, carrying over the same finishing as the main case and a very straightforward branded push clasp with 2 micro-adjustment slots for fine-tuning the fit on the wrist. Before moving on, we wanted to make special mention of the Seiko 5 Sports SRPG series. The Prospex SPB-117 currently retails for about $750, but if you're looking for a more cost-effective Seiko field watch in the same price tier as our other few picks from Timex or say Citizen, the SRPG series should warrant your consideration. World War II and field watches go hand in hand, and we've highlighted a few great watchmakers who manufactured field watches for the US General Infantry. But across the pond, Timor was one of the select few who manufactured a brand new watch specifically for the British Allied forces on the front lines. The Timor Heritage WWW, or Triple W, brings the original design back to life, bolstered by modern mechanics and technology. WWW stands for Wrist Watch Waterproof, and as we mentioned, Timor was one of the Dirty Dozen, or one of 12 watchmakers picked by the British War Office to craft a watch that could withstand the severe conditions of the battlefield. On this list, its closest rival would be the Hamilton Khaki Field, and seeing as they're both true to form mid-century pieces, that's no surprise. But we actually think the Heritage Triple W injects even more heritage elements into the design. First, the case is very small, at 36.5mm, and will wear like it thanks to the shorter lug-to-lug of 45.5mm. Folks privy to Hamilton will often say the Khaki Field wears larger than its case size suggests, but it's just because the lugs are longer and wrap around the wrist. Second, we love the larger crown. Nowadays, crowns tend to be getting a bit smaller, or at least hidden, and by running in the other direction, the Triple W definitely stands out here. Now, the case does only afford 50 meters of water resistance, which is a bit disappointing considering the name specifically cites water resistance. But hey, 50 meters or about 165 feet will be absolutely plenty for virtually anyone, even for divers. The real concern with any push-pull crown is catching it on something else like a shirt cuff or anything in your environment, and on a dive this would give us a bit of concern, given the Triple W's elevated price point compared to its rivals, so just be aware. You'll see a lot of so-called heritage watches use off-white dial elements or faux patina to make the watch look artificially aged, but the beige superluminova present on the Heritage Triple W under the dome sapphire is accurate, given the originals used off-white elements to begin with, making their use in the present wholly appropriate. We also really love the matching set of pencil hands that share very similar proportions to each other. Another really special element that instills more character than the more popular, or at least more discussed, Hamilton Khaki Field is the sub-seconds, that's large enough to take the place of the 6 altogether. And speaking of the Arabic numerals, just take a look at that 4. Under the hood, Timor uses a Sellita SW260-1. For everyday wear, there's certainly some trade-offs if you're going to compare this to the Khaki Field as we said before. The SW260-1 only has a 38-hour power reserve in contrast to the Khaki Field's 80 hours. However, the beat rate of the SW260-1 operates at 28,800 oscillations per minute, so you do get more precise timekeeping as a result. It's really going to be a matter of what you'll use your field watch for at the end of the day. And lastly, at this price tier, it's no surprise that the Timor Heritage WWW builds in a very premium NATO, so just take a look for yourself. Before we wrap up, we wanted to highlight a few luxury field watch honorable mentions. Our list could have easily been 20 strong, as the field watch space is so packed with incredible watches, and it was extremely difficult to narrow it down to under 10. We could have also easily waxed and waned about the Rolex Explorer, which some might say is the ultimate grail field watch. So here's a quick rundown of a few great luxury field watches in addition to our last 3 picks that MSRP for more than $1,000. First up, the Weiss Watch Company Standard Issue Field Watch. We covered this absolute stunner made in the USA Field Watch in a previous guide, but here's a quick rundown. The 38mm Standard Issue Field Watch is extremely special thanks to the hand-assembled Weiss Watch Company caliber 1005 mechanical movement, with full manual winding, a symmetrical small second subdial, and a 42-hour power reserve. Next, the newest 39mm Tudor Ranger streamlined the 2014 Heritage Ranger and added in a COSC certified MT5402. This all-around smaller Ranger sports a cleaner flat dial with Ranger text above the 6 and Tudor's iconic shield logo under the 12, and a bright red seconds hand to match. Last, the Omega Seamaster Railmaster. As a 40mm unit, it's a hair larger than your typical field watch, but scores points for its typical field watch simplicity and points for originality. The vertically brushed blue jeans dial paired with 4 Arabic numerals at the cardinal directions, and a contrasting rust-colored seconds hand and dial text is unlike anything else currently available in the field watch form. If you're looking for a field watch statement piece, look here.